The colossal alien vessel appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It dwarfed anything humanity had ever created, stretching nearly 3 kilometers from end to end. Its surface was sleek and silver, etched with shifting patterns that seemed to move when struck by sunlight. Within minutes, every telescope on Earth and across the moon locked onto it. At the United Earth Coalition headquarters on the moon, alarms blared. Security rushed into position while military commanders barked orders. No one knew if this was the beginning of first contact or an invasion. Then the message came. It was delivered in flawless English, translated by technology far beyond human understanding. The words were simple. We wish to speak with your leaders. Send representatives to discuss Earth's future in the Interstellar Alliance. Admiral Kara Vex was in the command center when the transmission arrived. At 52, with cropped gray hair and sharp, calculating eyes, she was one of humanity's most seasoned leaders. For 3 decades, she had commanded fleets across the solar system and even led the first mission to Mars 5 years ago. She had been the first to command a ship powered by humanity's groundbreaking stellar drive, the technology that finally made faster-than-light travel possible. Send them our coordinates, she ordered calmly. Let's hear what they want. 2 hours later, a small shuttle detached from the alien ship and glided silently down to the moon's surface. It landed outside the Coalition complex with eerie precision. A hatch opened and 3 figures stepped out. They looked almost human, yet unsettlingly different. Tall and slender, with faintly blue-tinted skin, large dark eyes, and no visible ears. The leader wore flowing robes woven from material that seemed to glow faintly on its own. I am Ambassador Zoran of the Valthar Dominion, the being declared. Its mouth never moved, yet the words resonated clearly, translated by some unseen device. I speak on behalf of the Stellar Concord, 7 great civilizations that have upheld peace in this region of space for 5 millennia. Inside the Grand Coalition Hall, the human delegation awaited them. Representatives of every Earth nation were present, along with envoys from the colonies on Mars and Europa. At the front stood Admiral Vex beside President Alvarez of the United Earth Government. Welcome to Earth, President Alvarez began carefully. We are honored by your presence. The honor is irrelevant, Zoran replied in its flat, emotionless voice. We are here to discuss terms. Terms? Admiral Vex's eyes narrowed. Yes, Zoran continued. A device appeared in its hand, projecting holographic symbols and images into the air. Terms for Earth's entry into the Stellar Concord. We have observed your species for centuries. Now, with the achievement of faster-than-light travel, though your method is unconventional, you are eligible to join interstellar civilization. The humans exchanged wary glances. On the surface, this sounded like an extraordinary opportunity. But there was something in Zoran's tone, cold, calculated, that made it feel less like an invitation and more like a warning. President Alvarez straightened and forced a smile. We welcome the opportunity to join the interstellar community. What would membership require? Admiral Vex asked, her voice sharp. Zoran tapped the device in his hand. A long list of conditions unfolded in glowing letters across the air. First, all faster-than-light technology must be surrendered to the Concord for review and approval. Second, all future human expansion into space must be sanctioned by the Concord. Third, Earth will contribute 40% of its resources, minerals, food, manufactured goods, as tribute. Fourth, the Concord will establish military bases on Earth, Mars, and Luna to ensure compliance with interstellar law. Fifth, wait, Admiral Vex cut him off, her eyes narrowing. Did you just say surrender our technology and 40% tribute? These are standard terms, Zoran replied smoothly. Every civilization joins under the same conditions. In return, you gain protection and access to our trade networks. Protection? Dr. Aiko Sato, Earth's chief scientist, raised an eyebrow. Protection from what exactly? Pirates? Raiders? Zoran's unblinking gaze swept across the room. Protection from those who refuse membership. Protection from yourselves. Young species are prone to catastrophic mistakes. The Concord provides guidance. Admiral Vex's fists clenched at her sides. You're not offering partnership. You're demanding surrender. We prefer the word integration, Zoran said coldly. The Stellar Concord has maintained order for 5 millennia. All civilized species accept our authority. Those who do not are classified as rogues and dealt with accordingly. The coalition fell into heavy silence. Every human in the room felt the threat behind those words. President Alvarez finally spoke, his voice measured. And if we refuse? Refusal would be unfortunate, Zoran answered. The Concord would designate Earth a rogue power. A compliance fleet would be dispatched to enforce cooperation. Such events are always unpleasant. Most species choose to accept our generous terms rather than resist. Admiral Vex rose slowly, her expression calm but unyielding. Ambassador Zoran, humanity values your offer. But this is not a decision we can make today. We require time to deliberate. Of course, Zoran said with a faint nod. You have 6 Earth months. We will return for your answer. But understand this. His glowing eyes swept the chamber. In 5,000 years, no species has ever refused Concord membership. Those who tried no longer exist as independent civilizations. Without another word, the aliens departed the hall. Their shuttle ascended to the waiting warship, and moments later, the colossal vessel vanished into faster-than-light transit, beyond human tracking. The coalition erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, some demanding immediate acceptance, others insisting on defiance. A few whispering of retreat. Admiral Vex raised her hand and the chamber fell silent. Her voice cut through the tension like steel. They think we're primitives who will bow without question. They think their technology makes them invincible. Her eyes burned with defiance. They're wrong. They think we have no choice. Admiral Vex's gaze swept over the room, meeting the eyes of every leader present. Her voice was calm but laced with fire. They're wrong. Dead wrong. President Alvarez shifted uneasily. Admiral, their ship is 3 kilometers long. They have 7 civilizations behind them. They've dominated this region of space for 5,000 years. What chance do we really have? Vex's lips curved into a smile, not warm, not kind. It was the sharp smile of a woman who had survived 30 years in the unforgiving void of space by outthinking every obstacle. They gave us 6 months, she said softly. 6 months to consider their terms. They have no idea what humanity can do in 6 months when survival is at stake. Her eyes flicked to Dr. Aiko Sato. How quickly can you weaponize our technology? Sato hesitated only for a moment. Then she nodded firmly. Fast, very fast. Good. Vex turned toward the military commanders. Prepare every vessel we have. I don't care if it's a colony transport, a cargo hauler, or a mining rig. If it can fly, I want it armed. A commander raised his hand, voice uncertain. Admiral, are you saying we're going to war with the Stellar Concord? Vex's eyes hardened like steel. They came to our home. They threatened our freedom. They think we'll kneel and surrender. Everything we've built. She shook her head slowly. Humanity didn't claw its way out of caves. Didn't survive ice ages, plagues, and endless wars just to bow before aliens who think they're our masters. We reached for the stars to stand tall. And we will. She walked to the wide viewport overlooking Earth glowing blue against the black canvas of space. Her voice dropped to a cold whisper. They wanted an answer. In 6 months, they'll get one. And it won't be the answer they expect. The hall went silent. Then President Alvarez stood beside her, his face resolute. Then we'd better get to work. We have a war to prepare for. One by one, the leaders filed out, each of them knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. The Concord had made a fatal error. They had given humanity both the time and the reason to fight. And in 6 months, the galaxy would never forget it. The next morning, the mobilization began. Every factory on Earth shifted production. Automobile plants were retooled to forge weapon components. Electronics companies turned their focus to military systems. Universities suspended regular classes, redirecting scientists and professors to research for the war effort. It was the largest unification in human history. On Earth, Mars, the Moon, and Europa, every settlement worked as one for the very first time. In the command center of the Lunar Defense Station, Admiral Vex stood before a wall of screens, watching the progress unfold. Show me what we've got, she ordered. Colonel Marcus Ease stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with glasses that made him look more like a scholar than a soldier. But appearances were deceiving. He was the finest cyber warfare strategist humanity had ever produced. Admiral, I've analyzed every transmission the Concord sent. Their tech is staggering, but it has a flaw. What flaw? Vex asked. They've been the dominant power for millennia, as he said. They've grown complacent. Their fleets run the same operating system, the same comms protocols, the same encryption routines. It's like they set one password for the whole region and never changed it. He gave a small, grim smile. In short, uniformity is weakness. Can you exploit it? Vex pressed. Given time, yes. Ezzy's eyes were steady. I've already started assembling virus packages that will cripple key subsystems. When they return, their perfect ships will be far less reliable. Vex nodded. Good, what else? Dr. Aiko Sato stepped up next. Young for her rank at 35, but brilliant. She carried herself with easy confidence. We've reverse-engineered the combat data from their first visit, she said. Their primary weapons are plasma-based, superheated, gas-accelerated to extreme velocity, and their defenses are energy shields, optimized to stop energy attacks. So shields stop plasma and lasers, Admiral Vex summarized. What about kinetic impacts? Sato's grin was fierce. Energy shields aren't designed to stop solid projectiles. They deflect energy, not mass. So we're building railguns. Railguns? A commander repeated. Magnetic accelerators, Sato explained. We'll fire dense solid rods, tungsten cores at tremendous speeds. We can push a projectile to roughly 5% of light speed. When a mass that heavy hits at those velocities, shields won't matter. It's pure physics. Momentum equals mass times velocity. We have both. Hope, sharp and sudden, rose in Vex's chest. How many can you produce in 6 months? Thousands, Sato said. We've already converted 3 asteroid mining complexes into weapons foundries. They have the magnetic infrastructure and raw materials we need. Every ship will be fitted with at least 1 railgun. The larger vessels will carry dozens. Vex turned to the commanders. What about our fleet? General Navarro, president, Alvarez's brother, pulled up an orbital display showing every registered human craft. They were few. Humanity had only been a true spacefaring species for a couple of generations. Still, scarcity bred ingenuity. We have 73 military vessels, General Navarro reported, and 231 civilian ships. Colony transports, mining haulers, research platforms, cargo freighters. We're retrofitting them all with armor and weapons. That's only about 300 ships, an officer pointed out. The Concord could bring thousands. Vex's answer was flat, certain. We will not meet them in a symmetrical fleet engagement. We'll use every asymmetric advantage we own. She tapped the star map. Our stellar drives are faster. We can drop in and out of FTL in seconds. Concord ships need minutes to make the same jump. That's our edge. Colonel Easy stepped forward again.
Hit and run.
Sabotage and mobility. We strike their logistics, corrupt their systems, and never give them a fixed target. Harass, disrupt, and withdraw before they can marshal overwhelming force. The plan was ruthless and simple. Weaponize what humanity already had, exploit the enemy's complacency, and turn speed and unpredictability into weapons. We strike fast, then vanish before they can react. Exactly, Colonel Ease replied. While they search for us, I'll be flooding their networks with viruses. And Sato's railguns will tear holes in their hulls. Admiral Vex looked at her team. The Concord thinks technology wins wars. They've forgotten that wars are won by people, by courage, creativity, and the willingness to fight for what matters. Over the next 6 months, the solar system was reshaped into a fortress. On Earth, factories ran round the clock. New weapons rolled off assembly lines at a pace no one had believed possible. Scientists worked in shifts, sleeping where they worked. School children too young for the front lines packed meals and supplies. Everyone did something. On Mars, colonies burrowed deeper into the red ground, carving bunkers and hardened bases designed to survive almost anything. Missile silos capable of striking orbital targets went online. Colonists were trained in basic combat, just in case. On the Moon, engineers erected vast railgun platforms with the range to threaten targets across the inner system. They cloaked those installations with stealth systems to hide them from Concord sensors. The Moon itself became a weapon. In the asteroid belt, mining complexes were converted into hidden foundries and secret bases. Hundreds of asteroids were equipped with engines, and guidance systems turned into colossal kinetic missiles, aimed at enemy formations. On Europa and the outer moons, ice was refined into fuel for ships, and reactors in subterranean cities were expanded to shelter refugees if Earth fell. No one said it aloud, but the unspoken Plans spread everywhere. If Earth was lost, humanity would still live on in the outer system. Admiral Vex's fleet readied for combat. None of the vessels matched the elegance or sheer scale of the Concord's warship, but each was purpose-built and lethal in ways the Concorde did not expect. Each crew was prepared to die defending home. Captain Elena Cruz commanded the carrier. Resolve, once a colony liner, designed to ferry 5,000 souls to Alpha, Centauri now refitted to launch. 50 attack craft each bristling. With missiles and railguns she ran. Relentless drills. Until her pilots could launch strike and land in under 3 minutes. Commander Liam Vex, no relation to the Admiral, led the Lunar Wasps. A squadron of 12 fighters, fast, nimble, and vicious, his pilots trained in maneuvers no one had ever used in space combat because no one had ever truly fought among the stars before. Humanity had fewer ships, fewer resources, and no glorious navy. What they had instead was speed, surprise improvisation, and a stubborn refusal to submit that Admiral Vex believed might be enough. Deep inside a concealed lunar lab, Dr. Aiko Sato and her team raced on their boldest design, Project Starstrike. It was a one-shot weapon. If it worked, everything would change. "Are you sure this is even possible?" an assistant asked, staring at the equation spread across the table. "No," Sato admitted without hesitation. "But 5 years ago, nobody believed faster-than-light travel was possible either. We made that work because we had to. We'll make this work for the same reason." As the 6-month deadline closed, the solar system fell into a hush. The factories finished their runs. The railguns were installed. The viruses were staged. Ships slipped into position. There was nothing left but the waiting. Admiral Vex stood on the observation deck of the Lunar Defense Station, watching Earth rotate in the distance. Her mind wandered. Her daughter, safe in a Brazilian bunker. The husband who had died on Mars a decade earlier. The long list of people through history who had fought for freedom. "They think we're primitives," she said softly to Colonel Marcus Easy, who stood beside her. "They aren't wrong," Ezra replied bluntly. "Against their tech, we are primitive." Vex's smile was small but fierce. "Primitive doesn't mean helpless. We survive with what we have. We fight with what we have. We win with what we have because that's what our species does. Ever since we left the caves." She pulled a compact transmitter from her pocket and pressed it. The same message flashed out across every secure channel in the system. "Take your positions. They will arrive soon. Remember, we are fighting not just for Earth, but for the right of every species to be free. When they come, show them what happens when you threaten humanity." 3 days later, sensors flared at the edge of the system, massive energy signatures, returning on schedule. The Concorde was back. Admiral Vex studied the feed. 47 ships, each larger than any human construction. Weapons that could level continents. Shields that shrugged off nuclear salvos. An armada that had subjugated hundreds of worlds. She keyed open a broadcast across the human network. "All ships, this is Admiral Vex. The Concorde fleet has arrived. They think we spent 6 months deciding whether to surrender. We did not. We spent 6 months preparing for war. Today we prove that humanity does not surrender. Today we show Earth fights back. All ships, weapons free. Let's make history." Across the system, human vessels powered their weapons. The trap was set. The Concorde was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. Aboard the Celestial Triumph, flagship of the Zethar Dominion's compliance fleet, Fleet Commander Xyler sat in his command chair. Around him, 46 Concord vessels maintained flawless formation as they pushed deeper into the Sol system. He had executed this approach countless times, a practiced, ruthless choreography designed to crush resistance before it could coalesce. But this time, something in the telemetry made his mandibles tighten. The stars felt oddly different. Fleet Commander Xyler had run this approach a dozen times before. It always ended the same way. The primitive species saw the Concorde's strength and surrendered without a shot. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships in position, Commander," his second officer replied. "We're approaching the outer planets of the human system. No military signatures, no defenses detected." Xyler made a sound that passed for a laugh among the Zethar. Of course not, he thought. They probably spent 6 months arguing about who would read the surrender statement. Prepare the demonstration. The demonstration was ritual. Vaporize an uninhabited moon to show what refusal looks like. It always worked. Seeing a satellite turn to dust convinced even the most stubborn worlds to comply. Target Neptune's fourth moon, Xyler commanded. Charge plasma banks to full. Let us show Earth why no one refuses the Concord. Across the fleet, 47 colossal hulls bled power into their main arrays. Energy meters climbed toward critical. Xyler watched with satisfaction. In seconds that moon would be gone, and with it any thought of resistance. Fire. 47 beams of superheated plasma screamed toward the little moon, then simply vanished. Xyler stared at the feed, baffled. The discharge registered on his instruments, but the beams never reached their mark. Before he could formulate an explanation, chaos erupted aboard the Celestial Triumph. Warning klaxons howled, consoles spat error codes and glyphs no one aboard recognized. The navigation screens flooded with bizarre imagery, cat, videos from Earth, while shields cycled on and often engines pulsed erratically, yawing the flagship. Report! Xyler roared over the alarms. Sir, we've been hit by a cyber attack, his technical officer shouted. A virus is in every subsystem. I can't purge it. How is that possible? Our networks are sealed. It's using our own comms protocols, sir. It's moving through the fleet mesh. Xyler looked at the tactical board. Every ship was lit in red. Every ship compromised. 5,000 years of dominance. And now their fleets were puppets of a code they could not control. Isolate the networks. Cut every external link, he barked. Segment each hull. It was already too late. The virus had wormed into every vessel. While the compliance fleet fought to regain control, they failed to notice the new energy signatures blossoming all around them. On the bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Vex watched her tactical map bloom with targets. Now the trap closed. Human vessels hidden until this moment, streaked from shadowed orbits and cloaked platforms. Railguns spun up. Missile volleys locked. Electronic warfare floods poured into Concord channels, amplifying the confusion. Now, Vex snapped. All batteries fire at will. Across the system, human weapons punched through defenses long enough to strike true. The Concord, master of 1,000 conquests, had never faced an enemy that used speed, surprise, and a single devastating vulnerability as a weapon. In that instant, the balance of the battle shifted, and the lesson the Concord would learn was brutal and immediate. All across the Concord fleet, space itself tore open. Human ships appeared as if from nothing, blinking into existence with the impossible stellar drives the Concord had dismissed as fantasy. One heartbeat, empty void. The next 300 vessels armed and aimed. Open fire, Admiral Vex commanded. Railguns struck first. Tungsten rods, each weighing tons, screamed forward at 5% the speed of light. Shields meant to deflect plasma, and lasers might as well have been paper. The projectiles slammed into the alien armada with the force of gods enraged. The Celestial Triumph staggered. 3 rounds tore through her shields and ripped gaping wounds along her hull. Xyler was hurled from his command chair as explosions thundered across 20 decks. Damage control systems tried to respond, only to be strangled by the human. Virus infecting every circuit. Fires spread. Compartments vented to vacuum. Return fire. Xyler bellowed, dragging himself upright. Some of the Concord warships managed to unleash plasma beams, but by the time the energy lanced across the void, the humans were gone, already jumping to new vectors. The beams hit nothing but silence. Then the humans reappeared at another angle, railguns spitting again. The Zethar cruiser. Glorious victory split apart under the barrage. The Valthar destroyer. Steadfast honor went dark, drifting powerless. The Korath frigate Serene Light blossomed into a fireball as a tungsten slug punched its reactor. On board the Resolve, Captain Cruz watched her squadrons leap into action. 50 attack craft burst forward, weaving through the chaos like a swarm of hornets. Wasps away, Commander Liam Vex reported as his fighters darted between enemy hulls. Too small and agile for the Concord's targeting systems, built for duels with capital. Ships, they slipped past defensive fire. Liam's squadron lined up on a battleship's engines and loosed their missiles. The stern erupted, the ship left crippled and drifting. This is impossible, Xyler roared. They're primitives. Barely out of their cradle, how are they doing this? His second officer, blood trickling down his temple, rasped the truth. They're not fighting like us, sir. Hit and run. Viruses, kinetic weapons. They're rewriting the rules. Another barrage rocked the Celestial Triumph. hull plating shrieking under the impact. On Xyler's tactical display, 17 Concord ships already blinked out, destroyed or disabled. His flawless armada, forged from 5 millennia of dominance, was unraveling before his eyes. "All ships!" Xyler screamed. "Emergency jump! Get us out of here!" But the virus still gnawed at their drives. Engines failed. Navigation scrambled. Some ships tried to jump anyway, only to tear themselves apart in failed transitions. The fleet was collapsing, and Xyler knew with a sick weight in his chest that the primitives were dismantling the legend of Concord invincibility in real time. The Concord fleet tried to jump to faster than light speed, but chaos ruled. Some ships tore into each other mid-jump, colliding in blinding flashes of light and shredded debris. Others miscalculated and emerged too deep inside the solar system, only to face Earth's hidden planetary defenses. Railguns on the Moon and Mars opened fire without hesitation, ripping them apart. What should have been an easy conquest had become a waking nightmare. Every advantage the Conquered thought they held, numbers, size shields, meant nothing here. Their massive ships were simply bigger targets. Their impenetrable energy barriers couldn't stop solid, metal slugs moving at relativistic speeds. Their overwhelming numbers collapsed against an enemy that struck, vanished and reappeared from impossible angles. Xyler watched in horror as 3 more of his ships exploded, their remains scattering into the void. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. Their crude to primitive weapons worked. Their unpredictable tactics shredded every line of defense. And all the while, the virus spread through his fleet, ensuring nothing could be coordinated. Then a voice cut through the comms, calm, steady, unmistakably human. It bypassed every Concord encryption like it wasn't even there. "Concord fleet," Admiral Kara Vex said. "This is Earth. You came here to force us into submission. You thought we were easy prey. You were wrong. I am giving you one chance. Surrender. Power down your weapons, and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy every single one of your ships. Surrender? To primitives?" The very thought was unthinkable. Xyler's mandibles clicked with fury. He would never. The celestial triumph shook violently as another railgun barrage tore into her. Explosions ripped through the decks. Fires raged. Hull integrity failed in dozens of places. His ship was dying around him. On the tactical display, 30 Conquered vessels were already gone, destroyed or disabled. The survivors were scattered, their formation shattered, their systems crippled. Xyler had arrived with 47 ships, a fleet meant to crush humanity with ease. Now he was the one being crushed. "Sir," his second officer shouted over the alarms. "We have to jump now. If we don't, we'll never get another chance." Xyler knew the truth. Pride would not save them. Only retreat. "All ships still capable of jumping. Emergency retreat," he barked. "Anywhere, just get out of this system." The survivors, what few remained functional, fled blindly into FTL. Some shot back toward conquered territory. Others vanished in random vectors, desperate to escape. The celestial triumph barely made its jump, disappearing just as another railgun slug streaked toward it. Inside the lunar defense station, Admiral Vex stood at the command deck. On her screens, the enemy fleet was breaking, fleeing, scattering. Around her, the command crew erupted in cheers. Against all odds, against every calculation, Earth had defeated the Stellar Concord's armada. "Let them go," Admiral Vex said firmly, her eyes hard. "Give them time to run." Because humanity didn't just want victory. They wanted the galaxy to know exactly what had happened here. "Let them go," Admiral Vex said. "I want survivors to carry our message back." "What message?" Colonel Ez asked. Vex gave a tired, proud smile. "Tell them Earth is not for conquering. Humanity will fight for its freedom. The age of the Concord's unquestioned dominance is over." Her tactical display showed the wreckage drifting in the void. 17 ships destroyed, 23 damaged or captured, 7 escaped. The most formidable military force in the region had been humbled by a species they called primitive. "Broadcast to all Concord frequencies," Vex ordered. "Make this clear. If you return, the outcome will be the same. We are willing to negotiate peace, but only as equals, never as subjects. The galaxy has changed. You must change with it." As that message spread through the stars, human crews began rescue and recovery, pulling survivors from crippled, conquered hulls, securing wreckage, and cleaning the battlefield. They had won the first and decisive engagement. Admiral Vex knew the war might continue, but one truth now stood incontestable. Courage and imagination could overcome superior technology. Humanity would not surrender. Earth had fought, and it had prevailed. On Australis core, the Concord chamber, 5,000 years old, crystal walls reflecting the light of 1 billion stars, had become chaos. 7 thrones ringed the hall, once a symbol of certainty and order. Now tempers flared. High Counselor Tereth of the Valthar slammed his fist on his seat. This is a catastrophe, a complete disaster. We sent 47 ships to crush a single primitive world, and they destroyed 17 of them. Grand Admiral Vorus of the Zethar Dominion paced, robes trailing. Fleet Commander Xyler was a coward. He should have fought to the last ship. You weren't there, muttered Counselor Kren of the Zorithian League. They used tactics we've never seen. Cyber warfare, kinetic strikes, hit-and-run attacks. They beat us with creativity, not just technology. Tereth barked, next time we send 1,000 ships, we'll erase them. A hush fell as Wisdom Keeper Elion of the Quorith Collective spoke for the first time. His voice was soft but carried weight. Will we truly dispatch 1,000 ships to destroy one world? And what message does that send to other systems? If the Concord can be defeated, what prevents others from rising? The room went silent. That was the true wound. The Concord's power relied on the belief in its invincibility. That belief lay shattered now. Tereth summoned the strategic feed and watched reports flood in. Resistance movements igniting on 17 worlds. Trade disputes flaring across 32. 3 member species refusing tribute, claiming the resources for defense. The victory at Earth had not only beaten a fleet, it had cracked the foundation of authority itself. Then we crush them now before it spreads, Vorus insisted. Send every ship we have and make Earth an example. Kren shook his head. The chamber hummed with fear and fury, but also with a dawning, dangerous uncertainty. The Concord had lost its monopoly on fear, and the galaxy was beginning to rearrange itself around that fact. The humans have proven they can. Wound us, said Counselor Kren. If we attack again and fail again, the Concord itself will collapse. Ambassador Zoran, who had once delivered Earth's original ultimatum, stepped forward. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Tereth spat the word with contempt. With primitives who dared attack us. With a species that defended itself when we threatened them, Zoran corrected. Let's not forget, we came to their world demanding surrender. They responded by defeating our fleet. From their perspective, we were the aggressors. Traitor, hissed Vorus. Realist, Zoran replied calmly. The humans have already broadcast a message across every system in conquered space. Shall I play it? Before objections could rise, he activated the recording. Admiral Kara Vex's face filled the chamber. Her voice was calm but unshakable. People of the Stellar Concord, she began. I am Admiral Vex of Earth. 6 months ago, your Concord came to my planet and demanded our surrender. You wanted our technology, our resources, our freedom. You threatened us with annihilation if we refused. We refused. The hologram shifted. Battle footage played. Concord warships burning. Human vessels flickering in and out of existence. The celestial triumph retreating, its hull cracked open. Every humiliation recorded for all to see. The Concord believed itself invincible, Vex continued. 5,000 years of dominance had convinced you that you would rule forever. But any power built on fear and submission is not real power. It is only bullying on an interstellar scale. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek tribute. We seek what every sentient being desires, freedom. The freedom to choose our path. To make our mistakes. To reach for the stars without asking permission. We will talk peace, but only as equals, never as subjects. And know this, if you come against us again, we will defend ourselves again and we will win again. To the other peoples of the galaxy, I say, you do not have to live under the Concord's yoke. You have the right to be free. If you choose to stand, Earth will stand with you. We will share our knowledge. We will share our tactics. Together we can build a galaxy where cooperation replaces domination. The recording ended. Silence consumed the chamber. Wisdom Keeper Elion finally spoke. The humans have done something far more dangerous than defeating us militarily. They have defeated us ideologically. They have given hope to every oppressed world. Then we crush that hope, Tereth snarled. We burn Earth and anyone who dares join them. With what fleet? Counselor Kren countered. Half of our ships fear fighting humans now. The other half are tied up suppressing unrest across our territories. We cannot fight a war on multiple fronts. Are you suggesting surrender? Tareth growled. I am suggesting adaptation, Kren replied evenly. The galaxy has changed. We must change with it or be swept aside by it. Coward, Voris spat. Survivor, Kren answered. The Zorithian people have endured 10,000 years. We know when to fight and when to negotiate. Now is the time for negotiation. Even as they argued, the galaxy was already shifting. On the industrial world of Varn 7, workers abandoned their factories, refusing to manufacture tribute goods. On Zorith Prime, a generation that had never known liberty began to question why they should live as slaves. On Korathis, farmers staged the first strike in 3 centuries. The message spread faster than the Concord could contain it. Earth had fought back and won. If one species could stand, others could as well. Meanwhile, orbiting Earth, Admiral Vex oversaw the aftermath. 23 disabled Concord ships had been captured. Thousands of alien survivors required aid. Human medics worked alongside alien doctors, learning from each other even as they treated battlefield wounds. Among the prisoners was Commander Xyler, once the proud commander of the Zethar Dominion's greatest fleet. He now sat inside a cell aboard the Resolve, staring at the walls broken. Admiral Vex came to see him. She stopped at the energy barrier, studying him silently. At last Xyler spoke. Why? Why did you fight? We offered you membership in the greatest civilization in the galaxy. You offered us slavery, Vex corrected. You demanded our technology, our resources, our freedom. That is not an offer. That is a threat. But we are superior, Xyler insisted weakly. Our technology, our experience. Your technology didn't save you, Vex cut him off. Your experience failed you when faced with tactics you'd never imagined. Superiority isn't about the biggest ships or the oldest empire, Admiral Vex said. It's about adapting, learning, surviving. Xyler sat in silence for a long moment before asking quietly, What will you do with us? We'll return you to your people, Vex replied. Once they're ready to talk, along with our terms for peace. Your terms? Xyler almost laughed. You really think you can dictate terms to the conquered? Admiral Vex's smile was steady. We already have. The entire galaxy is watching. Half your member species are on the verge of rebellion. Your Concord is in crisis. You came here to force us into submission. Instead, we've made you irrelevant. She turned to leave but paused at the door. But understand this, we're not like you. We don't want to replace your empire with our own. We want something better. A galaxy where species cooperate instead of dominate. Where strength is used to protect, not oppress. Where every world has the freedom to reach for the stars. That's impossible, Xyler muttered. Species are too different, too competitive. Only a strong central authority can maintain order. Maybe for you, Vex answered. But humanity has a saying, nothing is impossible for those who dare to try. We proved that by defeating you. Now we'll prove it again by building something better than your Concord ever was. With that she walked away, leaving Xyler alone in his cell. The fleet commander, who had once believed conquering Earth would be a trivial mission, was left to wonder if the human was right. Had the conquered become so corrupt, so complacent, that a so-called primitive species could humble them? And worse, if one world could rise up and win, what would happen when others tried? The answer came only 3 days later. 23 species sent messages to Earth, asking for help to claim their own freedom. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had imagined, and at the center of that change stood a small blue planet that had dared to fight back. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, a massive space station floated in neutral territory, halfway between Earth-controlled space and the Concord's domain. Its name was Unity Hub, constructed in record time by humans, with materials donated by newly defiant species. It was not grand like the glittering structures of the Concord. It was stark, functional, built with human pragmatism and urgency. But it was neutral ground, and that was what mattered. Here, away from Earth and Astralis core, the galaxy's future would be decided. Admiral Kara Vex was the first to arrive, accompanied by representatives from Mars, Europa, and the Alpha Centauri colonies. She wore her dress uniform, the silver and gold of her medals gleaming proudly on her chest. Behind her came Dr. Sato, Colonel Ize, and a carefully chosen delegation of Earth's finest diplomats and scientists. When the Concord delegation arrived, it was smaller than anyone had expected. High Counselor Tareth was there, But the proud Valthar leader looked diminished. His confidence eroded. Ambassador Zoran was present as well, his expression as measured and neutral as ever. The most unexpected arrivals were 3 Concord member species who chose to break ranks: the Quarath, the Zorithians, and the Silvery. For centuries they had stood under the shadow of the Valthar and Zethar hardliners. Now they walked into the summit on their own terms. But the greatest surprise was the others. Delegates from 23 species that had lived for millennia under Concord rule entered the station's grand hall. For the first time in thousands of years, they were not present as subjects but as equals. The interspecies summit began with Admiral Kara Vex stepping forward. Her voice carried across the chamber, steady and resolute. "We are here because the old way has failed. For 5,000 years, the Stellar Concord maintained order by force. They called it peace, but it was peace through fear, peace through oppression. They built an empire on the backs of those who had no choice. That ends today." Tareth rose to his feet, fury flashing in his crystalline eyes. "You dare speak to us this way? You who destroyed our fleet, who hold our people prisoner?" "Yes," Admiral Vex replied, calm and unwavering. "Because truth must be spoken to power. Your Concord came to Earth and demanded our surrender. We defended ourselves. Everything that followed, every battle, every loss was the consequence of your choice, not ours." She raised a hand, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. "Earth proposes the Interstellar Pact. A new framework not built on domination, but on respect. Not on fear, but on cooperation." The principles appeared as glowing words across the chamber. Every species has the right to govern itself. Technology must be shared freely to benefit all. Trade must be fair, never tribute. Military force only for defense, never conquest. Disputes resolved through dialogue, not threats. Every species, regardless of age or advancement, has an equal voice. "This is madness," Tareth spat. "Equal voice? You would grant primitives the same. Authority as civilizations with millennia of wisdom?" "Yes," came a voice. It was Wisdom Keeper Elion of the Quarath. The hall fell silent. Elion rarely spoke, and when he did, it carried weight. "The humans are right," Elion said. "Our age has made us arrogant. We confused longevity with wisdom. We mistook power for righteousness. We forgot that true strength comes from listening, not commanding." Counselor Kren of the Zorithian League rose next. "The Zorithian people support the pact. We were conquered 7 centuries ago, and we have never forgotten what freedom feels like. We choose to be part of something greater, something better than the conquered ever offered." One by one, other delegates stood. The Silvery, the Torani, the Makari, each told their story of subjugation. Each voiced their desire for change. "And if we refuse?" Tareth demanded, his voice sharp. "If we reject this pact, will you attack us as you attacked our fleet?" Admiral Vex shook her head firmly. "No, unlike your conquered, we will not force anyone to join. If you wish to cling to the old ways, that is your choice. But understand this, we are no longer alone. 40 species have already pledged interest in the pact. With or without you, a new order is being built." At last, Ambassador Zoran, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "Admiral Vex, may I ask something?" "Of course," she replied. "Why, you defeated us. By right of conquest, you could demand tribute as we once demanded from others. You could seize our technology and force us into submission, yet instead you offer cooperation. Why?" Admiral Vex's expression softened into a calm smile. "Because we are human, and history has taught us a truth we can never forget. Empires built on fear and force always collapse, but communities built on trust, choice, and cooperation can endure for generations. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to belong to it as equals, as partners, as friends." She looked slowly around the great chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of worlds. All of us come from different stars with different faces, minds, and desires. But there is one thing we all share. We all long for freedom. The freedom to choose our own path, to make our own mistakes, to reach for the stars without kneeling for permission. The Interstellar Pact offers that freedom, not through force, not through fear, but through choice. Join us because you believe in it, not because you are compelled. The hall was still for a moment, heavy with unspoken history. Then a delegate from the Melkari rose. "The Melkari people accept the pact." Another stood. "The Torani Collective accepts." Then another and another. Within the hour, 37 species had pledged themselves to the pact, even 3 of the Concord's own members, the Quarath, The Zorithian League and the Silvari signed, severing their allegiance to the old order. That left only Tareth and the Zethar delegation, isolated and fuming. The Valthar and Zethar, architects and beneficiaries of millennia of domination, stood apart. "You are making a grave mistake," Tareth thundered. "Order requires hierarchy. Peace demands authority. What you are building will rot into chaos." "Perhaps," Vex replied evenly. "But if so, it will be our chaos. Our choice. Our future. Better to fall reaching for something noble than to stand secure in something corrupt." Tareth scanned the chamber, his gaze falling on the countless species turning away from the old Concord to embrace this fragile dream of equality. At last he sat down heavily. "We will not sign, but we will watch. We will see if your dream can survive reality." "Fair enough," Vex said with a nod. "The door will remain open should you ever decide to step through it." The summit continued for 3 more days. Arguments flared, compromises were hammered out, and frameworks were drafted. They debated how disputes would be mediated, how technology would be shared, how collective defense could be organized without becoming another tool of tyranny. It was slow, painful work, yet they endured together as equals. On the final day, 40 species affixed their names to the completed Interstellar Pact. With their signatures, the Free Worlds Alliance was born, not an empire forged by conquest, but a community united by choice. Earth immediately opened its greatest breakthroughs to all members. The Stellar Drive was made open source, free for any species to adapt. Dr. Sato's defensive weapons were distributed without restriction, alongside training for their use. Colonel Easy established a cybersecurity network to safeguard all Alliance worlds from external threats. But the most transformative gift was not technological, it was ideological. After thousands of years under the Concord's boot, the galaxy had all but forgotten what freedom could feel like. And now, for the first time in an age, they had a chance to remember. The galaxy was remembering what freedom felt like. And now, at last, it was learning to live with it again. 5 years later, Admiral Kara Vex stood on the same observation deck of the Lunar Defense Station where she had once faced the Concord's fleet. But today, the view before her was very different. A formation of starships glided past, embarking on a historic journey, joint human Korath Zorithian expedition, bound for the Andromeda Galaxy. "They're beautiful," Dr. Sato said softly, standing at her side. The ships were unlike anything ever seen before. Human efficiency fused with Korath elegance, reinforced by Zorithian resilience. They weren't just machines of travel. They were symbols of unity, living proof that cooperation could shape wonders far greater than conquest ever had. "How many species are part of the Alliance now?" Vex asked. 73, Sato replied with quiet pride. Even the Valthar and the Zethar finally signed on last month. Tareth held out as long as he could, but the new generation of Concord leaders saw the truth for what it was. They knew the future was here. Vex smiled. "That's the thing about truth. You can resist it, deny it, fight it, but eventually everyone sees it." Her thoughts drifted back over the years. Earth had gone from standing on the brink of subjugation to becoming a founding pillar of the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history. Ancient rivals had become partners. Centuries-old wounds had begun to heal. Technology was advancing at a pace never imagined, fueled not by secrecy but by open exchange. But beyond all of that, something deeper had shifted. The galaxy had rediscovered that freedom mattered more than order. That cooperation was stronger than domination. That courage and creativity could overcome any darkness. "Admiral," came Colonel Easy's steady voice over her communicator. "We're picking up a signal at the edge of Alliance space. Unknown vessels approaching. Could be the Zerani from the next spiral arm." "A new threat?" Vex asked. "Or a new ally," Ezzy replied. "Either way, we're ready." Vex's gaze fell to Earth below, shining blue and unbroken, cradle of a species that had once stood alone against the Concord's might. She remembered that day 6 years ago, when she had declared before the galaxy that humanity would never surrender. They had fought. They had endured. They had won. And in winning, they had transformed not only themselves, but the stars around them. "Let's go meet them," Admiral Vex said firmly, "and show them what we've built. Show them there's a better way than fear, conquest, and domination. Show them the Interstellar Pact." She turned from the observation deck and made her way toward her ship. There would always be new challenges, new dangers, new civilizations waiting beyond the void, but Earth would never face them alone again. Humanity now had allies, partners, friends, an alliance of equals, and together, they were ready for whatever came next.